Hello and welcome to the latest edition of What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility. I am your host, Pete Pardo, publisher of SOT. You can also visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. Today we are here at the Saloon.
The Silver Dollar Saloon.
Silver Dollar Saloon with a very special guest, someone who I've known personally for about 32 years, right? Thereabouts.
It's been that long?
Yeah, it's been that long. We're getting old, dude. Lead guitarist of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra and Savatage, Mr. Chris Caffery. Welcome to What's Hot.
Thank you, Pete. It's great to have you over. This is actually the first interview that's going on at the Silver Dollar, and I'm planning on doing a lot more things here, some live performances and some other things, but this is the first time had anybody over to talk music other than ones that were here to forget about what it was they were talking about.
So I figure we get Chris in here today and talk about, he just finished up the Savatage tour recently. He's got some new music he's put together. So how did the Savatage
finish the Trans-Siberian Orchestra tour?
It
wasn't a Savatage. But yeah, we did the Christmas Attic tour, was just finished, which was really awesome. Trans-Siberian Orchestra did something that Brian Hartley and Paul O'Neill always come up with something that's really incredible. But this tour, we actually managed to, I think, take it to a whole new level. The stage really came to life in like a third dimension besides, just your typical lights and sound. I mean, there was props inside of props and screens inside of things. And like I said, Brian and Paul, they're always reaching. And that's the biggest problem, I think, with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Every year the show gets so big and so huge that we have to constantly outdo ourselves, and I think this year was really a whole nother level. And it was great to finally do the third record from the Christmas trilogy. It was the second record from the trilogy, but the only one we hadn't played live.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so how did the audiences take to that? Because for some,
they really liked
different.
it. I mean, it's like anything, any music fan or any kind of opinion. Some people like one record, some people like one song. So, you always get people that may say that, oh, well, I missed the bar song, they'll say, like Old City Bar, because we haven't done Christmas Eve and other stories. But then there's people that'll be talking about the Christmas Attic, and they'll be like, well, Boughs of Holly's my favorite song. And so it's like you always got people that are looking for one thing. And when you have a catalog like ours, and you only have, and we play it, for us, it's where people are telling us to cut the show down, and we're at 2.5 hours. I mean, we used to play close to 3, and everybody's like, well, you got to make the show shorter, and that's not our decision. We'd play all night, but you only have so many songs you could play, and then Paul wants to put in new material too. So it's a little hard sometimes to get everything in there, but it really went well, and the story was fun, and it's just fun for us as musicians to get up there and have a new show to sell. It's a little bit more in the rehearsal end, because you have to put together a whole new stage performance as far as your band, like who's going to be here, where's there, what you're doing. But at the end, I think it was a great tour all the way around. Everybody had a lot of fun.
Good. It was kind of cool to see. I didn't get to see a show this year. I try to go like every other year, but I would have liked to have seen Russell Allen fronting the East Coast.
Yeah, he's Russell's awesome. He has a lot of fun up there, and he's great too, because a lot of the rock theater element that Paul has with Trans-Siberian Orchestra it's about bringing these songs and these characters to life, and Russell's really good at acting out those characters on stage. When he has to do his song, I kind of like the Harold Hecuba thing on Gilligan's Island, where he came out and we went to show Gilligan how it's really done. Well, Russell will come out and it'll be the different hat and jacket, and he'll put on that different personality, and he's really good at not only of course singing. He's one of the greatest singers on the planet in my opinion, and I actually I don't pat myself on the back, but I introduced Russell to Paul, so I always wanted to work with him. So the ability to relay the lyrics and the story and be that character is something Russell does very special.
Cool. Well, I'm glad the tour was successful. Again, TSO tour, not Savatage. Sorry for
that's
my
all right. That's
blunder.
Okay.
So speaking of Savatage, so any news on the Savatage front at all?
Well, as everybody knows, the Wacken Festival in Germany at the last Thursday of July, we're going to be Savatage and Trans-Siberian Orchestra are headlining the opening night, and it's going to be a very, very, very special evening. We're all really excited about it. It's been a long time since we've been on stage together under the name of Savatage, and it's the very first festival appearance ever for Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and that's going to be awesome to see. And everybody asked me what's going to go on that night, and I was telling you earlier, anybody's questions about what's going to happen at Wacken on that Thursday night will be answered at Wacken on Friday morning.
So all you lucky European metal fans, you're in for a treat. Unfortunately, we don't get these luxuries too often here in the U.S. But as far as all these big festivals go, but
I know a lot of people that are making the trek over there, though. So
yeah, no
it'll
doubt,
be fun.
no doubt. So new music, you've been busy putting together stuff for your upcoming solo album. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm actually I'm halfway through recording it. I've actually started mixing. I do a lot of the stuff myself with this because I just really like to personalize it, and I find that when you have to get, say you're doing 10 songs and you go, okay, well, I'm married to these 10 songs, I'm going to do 10 drum tracks and I'm going to go in the studio and you got to finish them, then you might write another song, or one of those 10 songs might not necessarily be where you want it to be. I think this way I'm able to take it, and I'm doing it in pieces, and I did the first 5 songs and I'm doing more, and I think it's going to be about 13 when it's said and done. And I've been sending drum tracks. Brian Tishy's been doing most of the drums, and Jeff Plate did a track for me that I actually released a couple of songs on this record on Bandcamp, but the only one that's going to be actually in that version on the album, I think, will be the one that Jeff played on the other 2, where the drums are being replaced and I'm remixing them. So I did everything on those tracks, and I'm, as a drummer, I make a pretty good guitar player. So it's it's one of those things where I'm really happy about it, and the music's cool. I mean, everybody always gets excited about their new stuff, and I just think this stuff is really, I think where I'm at in my life and my career, I got a lot of positive influences in my life right now, and a lot of people that are making me feel happy and confident about what's going on, so I'm very,
it's always a good thing.
Yeah, I'm very excited for people to hear this record, and I think my voice is coming together a lot stronger, and I'm finding myself with that. I kick myself in the butt sometimes for not really diving heavily into vocals when I was very young, because I probably would have been in a really different position in my career. But it's like everything happens for a reason, and
that wasn't really your thing.
It's funny because when you start as a guitar player and you sing, no matter how good your vocals are, people will be like, "Oh, he sings pretty good for a guitarist." But when I hear this stuff now, I got a lot of people asking me who's the singer, and I put a clip online the other day, and I heard a few comparisons to Dio, Halford, and Blackie Lawless, and I'll take that. If that's where the comparisons are, I can live with that.
3 good guys to be compared to, yeah.
I can live in that company. So I believe I'm going to call the record Your Heaven Is Real, which was the song that I put the clip on the other day. I had an experience a few years back on a road with Trans-Siberian Orchestra where I'd eaten mussels, and about an hour and a half later I had a pretty big seizure, and it actually definitely crossed over, and it's weird. But this song was about what I saw when that had happened, and that whole experience, and I just wanted to name the record that too. Now I think that's where I'm leaning. The record had been untitled for a while, but I think that's where it's going now. And I have to turn the masters in, I think, by around like May 1st. But if I can get them in May, I think I'll be all right. So I'm shooting for May 1st, but we'll see.
Summer release, early summer.
Yeah,
release,
I'm thinking probably. I don't want to. I want to release it after Wacken, because we're going to be really busy with that. So I don't want to have to interfere with the rehearsal process or anything that's going on with that. So that's why I'm trying to get my stuff done by the beginning of May, and then I can dedicate those months before that to whatever it is that Paul needs us to do in preparation for Wacken, because I don't want to get anything that's interfering with him or that night, because like I said, it's going to be a very special evening. So I just want to be able to focus myself and my attention to that when the time comes.
Well, folks, I had an opportunity to hear the entire title track just a few minutes ago, and it's killer. So if you've been following Chris for his whole career, be prepared for some really, really heavy, exciting stuff here based on what I just heard. So
thank you.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing it, actually. And with me, I'm like I said, I'm doing mostly everything other than the drums. I'm doing the guitars and the mixing and the engineering and singing, and I'm going to have Greg Smith do some bass parts for me, because there's a couple songs that, I can play the bass, but sometimes you just need the bass player's head to really fill in things and just get into that frame of mind where you're thinking as a bass player along with the drummer, and I think it's more fun to hear somebody do that. And actually, I'm going to head upstate into New York, and my friend Lonnie Park, who works with John West up there, he's going to do some keyboards and some extra background vocals with me too, because every once in a while I like to have he has a great sensitivity for background vocal parts that I wouldn't hear, some answers and things that might happen that I didn't even hear in my head.
Good. It's always good to have those extra
hands. I have enough voices in my head as it is. So.
All right, we got a couple. We got Crystal here. We got a couple new releases that you all need to be aware of. It's things are just coming out or just been released. As most of you Zeppelin fans probably know, the Physical Graffiti remaster is out. This is the deluxe set, 3-disc.
I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It sounds fantastic. It's got the 3rd disc of bonus material. Which is nothing really essential there. It's basically some rough mixes and of some of the tunes from the album. A couple of 1 or 2 instrumentals without Plant's vocals. But all in all, it's well worth having. It's my favorite Zeppelin album. So gotta have that one.
Absolutely.
The latest release from Blind Guardian, Beyond the Red Mirror, German power metal veterans. I mean, this is killer. It's just it's taken them a few years to come out with a new album. It was well worth the wait. It's symphonic. It's epic. It's heavy as all hell. I mean, these guys, I don't know how much Blind Guardian you've listened to, Chris, but...
if I've listened to them a lot. I've toured with them a lot. We played a lot of shows with them overseas. Great band. And I haven't heard this yet, but knowing them, I'm sure it's awesome.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Well done, guys. What can you say about freaking UFO? I mean, it's like A Conspiracy of Stars is their latest. I think Vinnie Moore's now been in the band for about 10, 11 years. He just fits in like a glove. And, I know a lot of people talk about, the Schenker years were the classic UFO years. But, much like Deep Purple with Steve Morse now, who's been in the band for quite a long time, he's kind of injected new life into Purple. I think Vinnie Moore's kind of done the same thing with UFO. And it's probably the strongest album since he's joined the band. It's just that classic bluesy hard rock style that UFO's been doing now for 40, 45 years, whatever it's been. Yeah. And
one of my favorite bands of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. So, and I think they're going to be doing a U.S. tour coming up fairly soon. So make sure you be on the lookout for that. Wanted to briefly mention this band. It's called Tarot. They're from Australia. It's called The Warrior Spell. Little known band. In fact, a friend of mine happened to turn me on to these guys. And if you can imagine like a mix of like Deep Purple, Uriah Heep with a little like occult feel, little psychedelic stuff thrown in. That's what this is all about. I mean, just really, really interesting stuff. Great Hammond organ, great guitar leads, effects-laden vocals. It sounds like it was transported out of like 1973. So be on the lookout for that. Tarot. It's on Heavy Chains Records and Tapes. Very small label out of Australia. So check that out. There's actually a review on the website on Sea of Tranquility, so be on the lookout for that. From Finland, Oceanwake, Sunless, their brand new CD. Sunless, yeah, pretty cool. Epic doom and death metal with some like folk and prog influences thrown in for good measure. If you like classic Opeth, I think you'll love these guys. Really, really long tunes. I think there's only 5 tunes on the CD. Most tunes are like anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes long. Really, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and if you've ever been to Finland in the wintertime, Sunless is perfect. I remember I was doing my Faces promo tour, and I went to Finland, and these guys are crazy. I was sitting in the hotel lobby, and I had an interview at 11 in the morning, and it was over by noon, and I had another one at 2 in the afternoon, and a bunch more later in the afternoon, and it was a 2-hour break, and the guy from the Finnish record company, I was like, well, what do we do now? And he's like, well, there's really only one thing we can do. I was like, what then? He goes, we must drink. And I'm like, he turns around and starts putting shots of whiskey in front of me. I'm like, what do you want these interviews to be like later on? But yeah, I guess if you live in a land with absolutely no sunlight, I mean, actually I do, because I live down here in the Silver Dollar freaking bunker. I call it the bombed shelter. But yeah, but it was funny. Finland's an awesome place. They do like to drink. They do like their metal.
Yep. Well, let's see what else we got on the new front. 30th anniversary deluxe edition. That's a mouthful of Defenders of the Faith from Judas Priest. You've already heard a remaster of this about a decade ago, so why get this one? Well, because it's got a bonus. There's 2 bonus discs on here, which contains the full show from Long Beach Arena in California, May 5th, 1984, on the Defenders tour. So if you're like me, and I'm sure Chris as well, who happened to catch them on that tour.
I think I saw that tour probably 3 or 4 times. But I knew the band, which was kind of crazy, because I grew up listening to Judas Priest, and then my first concert ever was Kiss and Judas Priest at Nassau Coliseum. I don't know if I had a ticket stub or anything from that, but I had a photo in the other room of me and Glenn Tippin. When I was 12 years old, I won a contest for Judas Priest backstage passes from I believe it was Sam Goody or Harvard. I don't know, it was in the Paramus Park Mall, and I got to meet them, and I remember my mom and dad drove, and me and my brother went, and they waited outside. It was at the Palladium in New York City, and went in and took us backstage before the show. And Keke Downing met me, and he says, "So what do you want to do when you grow up?" And I said I wanted to be like him, which was pretty cool, because Savatage got to do a couple months of dates opening up for Judas Priest, and it was a real pleasure to be able to call them friends and to actually be doing what he is doing, was doing. And those 2, Glenn and KK, are always going to be 2 of my biggest influences as a guitar player and a performer. I mean, of my whole entire life, as well as Priest and the music, and Halford as a singer, and Ripper as a singer. I mean, one of my best friends too. So it was a great band. And Defenders of the Faith was probably I think the 3rd or 4th year that I went to see them, and they always were happy. They always had their backstage passes, and we always, just started growing up, and eventually it was real crazy to be sitting with them on tour, and remembering that I was at that little 12, because at that time I was by far the youngest kid in that crowd. Judas Priest at the Palladium at that time, and the next year they toured with Iron Maiden. It's like nobody was 12 at a concert at that time, and that's and I know now when I go see Savatage shows or Trans-Siberian Orchestra show, when you go and people were bringing the younger, because of course with TSO we kind of go from 8 to 80, but it's always special when you see the younger people and you see them turn around. I mean, even in the case of some of the performers' kids, it's like Elijah Wood, Mark's son, I see him on TV all the time. He's one of the most brilliant drummers I've ever seen. It's like it's great to see the influence of music and the young people and watch it go. And I think that's the same way that these people must have thought about with me. It's like, well, here's this little kid, and the next thing you know, it's like we're playing festivals for 50,000 people together in Germany, and it's a great thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great album, great band, great tour. The only real quick tour memory I'll share with you is I was at the infamous Meadowland show on the Defenders of the Faith tour.
Was
where
that the one with the
ripped
seats?
Up all the seats, yeah.
But the first one,
they did that at the Garden.
The Garden
as well.
was the first one. I was at the Garden and the Metal. And the Garden one was it was funny at the time, but then I think it was 5,000 seats they ripped up at the Garden.
Yeah, it was just a lot of destruction. Yeah, they vowed to not have a metal show there for a long time after that.
I can't remember exactly what the reason was that they started ripping things up.
I don't know. Just before you knew it, all of a sudden the seat cushions were flying everywhere. It was insane. Yeah. So, crazy. Last new release to go over today, it's actually a book from a friend of ours, Martin Popoff, Sail Away. Story of Whitesnake. If you're a Whitesnake fan, everything you want to know about him is in here, starting from the way beginning in Coverdale's time with Deep Purple, all the way through the latest incarnation, and everything in between. So it's kind of timely that this came out, because Coverdale just announced that Whitesnake's next studio album is going to have all covers of songs from when he was in Purple, Mark 3 and 4, and they're going to do a tour. I think the tour is going to be half Purple songs and half Whitesnake classics. So kind of timely this just came out. So if you're a Snake fan, definitely look into this. All right, with that, we're going to wrap up today with Forgotten Favorites, because of course can't have an episode of What's Hot without it. And in honor of our guest here, Dr. Butcher, from 92 or 93, it's officially come out.
This actually was released in 95.
95, okay.
Yeah.
Recorded in 92.
Chris Oliva passed away in 93. We recorded this in 94.
Okay.
And then John left to tour with Savatage for the Japan Live stuff, and this was released in 95. So the original demos were recorded in 92, but this record was recorded at Moore Sound Studios in I believe it was September or October of 2004. And it was crazy. I think I did every guitar track on this album in 3 days, rhythms, leads, everything. but it's a special album, and this year we're actually putting together, and it's coming out that the wheels are in motion for a 20th anniversary vinyl release of this, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And excited about that. I mean, it's a classic record, and a lot of people always ask, are you going to do another Butcher record one day? I'd love to. I mean, there's always so much going on, and I've learned that the best thing for me to do as far as like predicting the future is don't.
Just let it happen. Just let it happen.
That's it. My crystal ball is broken, and I know what's going on right now. We're sitting here at Silver Dollar talking about music, and I'm happy to be here. And if it happens, it happens. I mean, me and John had a special chemistry, and we released something. I think no matter what happens, this record's going to have its place in metal history, and that's actually something that Martin said in his Heavy Metal Bible. Yep. He said, Mark his words one way or another that this record's going to have release and re-release and re-release, and it has. And
well, it's probably, at least at the time anyway, it was probably one of the heaviest albums you had ever done. And I always find it interesting when sometimes you meet up with Savatage fans who still have not heard this album, which I find uncanny, but it does happen. So if you are a fan of Savatage, or you just like heavy metal, that's got a classic feel, you need to hear this if you haven't already. So I don't know what else to say about it, but
it's classic.
It's a classic. It's a forgotten favorite for many, but it's always it's up there on my shelf, and I pull it out every so often. I figured I'd share with you today.
Yeah, I like the. It's funny, the bonus track on this one was the Inspector Highway song, yep. And that song was always really fun for me. That was written at the time when everything was recorded, but we never did it just because it was so involved, and we had a limited budget. And the worry was with a lot of these songs like Born on a Board and Inspector Highway, and the ones that didn't make this record, there was a few other ones too, even in the demo form. It was like, we just didn't have the time to get that involved in the studio. And Inspector Highway is a cool song because I wrote it about a highway coming through Ringwood, New Jersey, where there's an old manor, and I saw like this, I don't know if I was tired or what it was, but I saw this like vision of this car, and I wrote this song about this ghost car, and that's what it's about. And it's kind of odd because we're sitting here in my bar, which happens to be haunted anyway. So we don't actually have ghosts in the bar at the moment. We could show them some of the bar patrons. We have
it's quite the cast of characters here.
Yeah, we have Frog. Actually, I'm going to talk about this Frog for a second. This Frog was my 12th time I shot the star out at the fair. This is Alfonso. Yes, he's our newest adopted son. His mother's not home at the moment, but it's Alfonso. But yeah, I've done it 12 times. I think it has to be a redneck record.
Yeah.
I think it probably does have to be a redneck record to shoot the star out 12 times, but I'm proud of it.
Cool. Well, Chris, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
And plug your hot sauces real quick before we go.
Oh, yes. By the way,
not only does he play guitar and sing and make cool metal music, but
me and my partner, Mr. Steve Seabury, with High River Sauces, and Tears of the Sun was the first sauce I released. It's a Golden Chili Award winner, which means it's world champion, and very proud of that. Grapes of Wrath is a seasonal one, and High River Sauces, we're the upstart heavy metal hot sauce company, and we're sponsoring the New York City Hot Sauce Expo, which is in April, by the way, in Brooklyn, and it's a lot of fun. And people ask me why I make hot sauce, and I tell them that it is a way for me to be a pain in the ass all the time.
And where can they find that on the web?
Well, at highriversauces.com. And the links are on my pages too, my Facebook music page and everything. So
sounds good. Excellent. Well, we've come to the end of another What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility. Again, I am Pete Pardo for Chris Caffery. We'll see you next time. We've got another special guest next week. Should I tell them? Yeah. For all of you Orange County fans, Dan Brown, the owner of the Warehouse, will be on our show next week, and we're going to do a show strictly on forgotten favorites. What we're going to do is talk about old shit.
Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. 50-some-odd burgers. So Dan will be joining us. We'll be broadcasting from the Warehouse, just talking about old stuff. So we're going to do a whole show on forgotten favorites. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming the week after that with new stuff and all that kind of stuff. So be safe. Make sure you listen to a lot of new tunes. Check out the website. Take care.